Imagine the crackle of the ice, that sharp spray when a player stops, and then just that burst of explosive speed.
Yeah.
Ice hockey is a sport defined by these incredible, all-out efforts, short sprints, quick changes of direction, constantly pushing,
Mhm.
and it's repeated over and over just within a single shift. The athleticism is really something.
It really is.
But how do you actually measure that kind of dynamic, repeated performance in a way that's, well, meaningful?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that. How do you design and, importantly, validate an on-ice sprint test that truly captures the unique, explosive demands on female ice hockey players?
Right.
Our source for this is original research published back in 2021 in the International Journal of Exercise Science.
Okay.
It's called Development and Reliability of a 715-meter repeated on-ice sprint test for female ice hockey players. Authors were Wilson, Jackson, Snidmiller, and Bell.
Got it. A solid source.
So, our mission today is to understand how this specific test was, well, meticulously developed to mimic real game demands.
Mm-hmm.
Why its reliability is so absolutely crucial for athletes, for coaches, the people relying on these numbers.
Yeah. You need to address the data.
And what surprising practical insights it actually revealed about differences between players based on their positions.
What's fascinating here, and you kind of hit on it perfectly, is how well this study gets the nature of ice hockey. It's not continuous.
No, not at all.
It's defined by these intense, intermittent bursts, quick sprints, abrupt stops, sharp turns, explosive starts,
Right.
all mixed in with lower intensity stuff. And how often they do those all-out efforts. It varies a lot.
Depends on the player, the situation.
Exactly. Gender, game situation, player position, even the level of competition, it all factors in.
And that's where the challenge really comes in with, let's say, traditional fitness tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the game's so dynamic, a one-size-fits-all test probably isn't going to cut it.
Not really, no.
Oh. We've seen all sorts of tests used over the years, on ice, off ice, but they're kind of all over the map.
Totally. Sprint distances from, 6 meters up to, 127?
Yeah, huge range. And the times vary, recovery periods vary, some include skills, some don't.
It's inconsistent. And because of that variety, no single test has really become the gold standard for repeated sprints in hockey.
Which raises that big question. Do these tests actually reflect what happens in a real game?
Well, that's the key criticism, the specificity problem.
Yeah.
A lot of existing tests, especially the off-ice ones, just don't really mimic the exact movements, the exact timing of players during gameplay.
So you get a disconnect.
Well, real disconnect, yeah. Test results might show little, maybe no association with how a player actually performs on the ice or their success.
It's like asking a sprinter to train for a marathon and expecting them to be great at both. It doesn't quite track.
Exactly. Poor analogy, maybe, but the point stands. Specificity matters.
So if these older tests were so varied, maybe inadequate, sounds like that specificity problem was pretty major. What was the insight, the thing that led these researchers to land on this 7x15-meter test?
Okay, so connecting this to what players actually do, there was some important previous research, Jackson and others, in 2016.
Right.
They observed female varsity players doing maximal forward sprints up to 7 times per period.
7 times in one period. Wow.
A lot of bursts. And crucially, these weren't long sprints. They typically lasted only about 2, maybe 3 seconds.
Okay.
And that duration, it corresponds almost perfectly to a distance of around 15 meters.
So that's where the 15 meters comes from.
Exactly. And also, these were linear sprints, like breaking out of the D zone, moving through the neutral zone, fast back-checking, straight line speed bursts.
That makes a ton of sense when you think about the flow of the game, those critical moments.
It really does align with game demands.
And for these short, really explosive efforts, what energy system are we primarily talking about?
Well, for anything under about 5 seconds, the body's tapping into the ATP-PC system. Adenosine triphosphate phosphocreatine.
The quick burst system.
Precisely. It's vital for hockey players, allows for those quick, powerful bursts. But it depletes fast.
Right.
So this whole 7x15-meter test, taking around 21 seconds total on average, it's specifically designed to stress the capacity of that system, to push it, just like a really demanding shift would.
Okay, so knowing why this specific test was so important, the next step was the how. How did they actually, build this repeated on-ice sprint test, the ROAS, to really mimic those game demands?
Right, the design. They used a convenient sample, 17 varsity women players, all from the same team.
Okay.
Specifically 11 forwards and 6 defensive players, average age around 21.
And you mentioned this was a high-level team.
Yeah, importantly, they were contenders for the Canadian University National Championship that same year. So these were highly conditioned, top-tier athletes.
That definitely gives the results more weight. Okay, so let's get into the specifics. The 7 by 15 meter Oroist protocol. What did the players actually do?
So each player did 7 consecutive on-ice sprints, each one exactly 15 meters long.
7 in a row.
Yep. And here's a critical detail: the timing. Each sprint started precisely 15 seconds after the start of the previous one.
Oh, interesting. So the recovery is built into that cycle.
Exactly. If a sprint took, say, 3 seconds, they got 12 seconds recovery before the next go signal.
Got it.
This unique approach meant the total test duration was fixed at 105 seconds.
That's a really clever way to standardize the work-rest ratio, forcing that repeated effort. And how did they schedule the testing to ensure it was reliable?
Good question. Participants did 2 trials of the test on the same day, with about 20 to 30 minutes of recovery in between.
Okay, 2 on day 1.
Then they came back about a week later and did 2 more trials, so 4 trials total for each player.
But that sounds pretty robust.
Yeah, it was designed to ensure they were recovered and to check for consistency. They also had strict guidelines: nutrition, hydration, rest, no heavy exercise the day before.
Controlling the variables.
Right. And all testing was done on freshly flooded ice, same facility, but they shifted the test area slightly each time so the ice wouldn't get chewed up in one spot.
Smart. What about equipment and the start? Any interesting details there?
Players wore full game gear, pads, helmet, everything except their hockey sticks.
No sticks. Why?
The researchers said it was mainly to reduce the risk of tripping the timing lights.
Ah, practical reason. Makes sense. Don't want players wiping out on the timing gate.
Exactly. And they cited evidence suggesting that for short, linear sprints like this in female players, the stick doesn't significantly impact the time anyway.
Okay.
Testing was individual. Timing lights at the start, 5 meters, 10 meters, and 15 meters. Players chose their preferred standing start, kept it consistent. They got a verbal go, but the clock only started when they broke the beam at the start line.
Ah, so it eliminates reaction time. Clever.
Yep. Purely measuring the movement time.
And I assume the instruction was basically go as hard as you can every single time.
Precisely. Go all out on every sprint. Do not pace yourself.
Push that system.
Exactly. They'd skate back slowly, get ready mentally. Investigator gives countdowns. It's all about hitting that max effort repeatedly.
So, with all these sprints done, what were the key things they actually measured? The metrics?
The main ones were the fastest single 15-meter time out of the 7 sprints.
Okay, their peak speed.
Yep. Then the mean time for all 7 sprints, their average performance.
Right. Consistency or endurance.
And finally, the total sprint time, just the sum of all 7.
Got it.
And an interesting little side note, for 85% of the players, their fastest sprint was the very first one.
Makes sense when you're freshest.
And for 79%, their slowest was the last one.
Yeah, fatigue setting in. That really mirrors a game shift, doesn't it?
It really does. Highlights that rapid fatigue during repeated maximal effort.
Okay, so they designed the test meticulously, got the data, now the payoff, analyzing the results. What did this deep dive reveal, both about the test itself and the players?
Well, the headline finding, and this is huge, is that the 7 by 15 meter Orist was found to be highly reliable.
Okay, define highly reliable for us.
It means it's consistent. There were no significant differences in the results between any of the 4 trials the players did.
So if you did the test Monday and then again next Monday, you'd expect very similar results, assuming your fitness hasn't changed.
Exactly. It shows minimal learning effect. You're not just getting better at the test itself, it's measuring actual performance. And that's critical for any assessment. You need to trust the numbers.
Absolutely. Reliability is foundational. Now, for those maybe not deep into stats, you mentioned things like ICC, TE, Perceive. Can you break those down simply?
Sure. Think of ICC's interclass coefficients like stepping on your bathroom scale.
Yeah.
If you step on it 5 times quickly and get the same weight each time, that scale is reliable. A high ICC, like the 0.91 they found for the mean and total sprint times across all 4 trials, it's like getting almost the exact same weight every time. It means this test is incredibly consistent.
Near perfect, basically.
Very good to near perfect, yeah. And the low typical error, TE, and coefficient of variation, Perceive, those just mean there's very little random wobble or fluctuation in the scores.
So less noise, more signal.
You got it. For a coach, this means if a player's score does change, You can be pretty confident it's a real change in their performance, not just some random error in the test.
That's huge for tracking progress or decline.
It is. They did note, as expected, that the ICCs were slightly lower when comparing between different days intersession versus the same day intrasession.
Which makes sense, more variables day to day.
Right, but still very high overall. The test holds up.
Okay, test is reliable. Check. Now, let's talk positional differences. Did forwards and defense perform differently? And how?
They definitely did find differences. First, a physical characteristic. The defensive players generally had a greater body mass, about 65 kilos versus 60 for the forwards.
Okay, D are a bit bigger.
Yep. And performance-wise, forwards had a significantly faster mean 15-meter sprint time across all 7 sprints.
So, better average speed over the repeats.
Correct. And they also had a significantly faster total sprint time.
Makes sense. Adds up. So, forwards were clearly better at the repeated sprint aspect.
Overall, yes. But, and here's that surprising nuance you mentioned.
Yeah, what was it?
Despite those clear differences in the average and total times, there was no significant difference in the fastest single 15-meter sprint time between the positions.
Wait, really? So their absolute peak speed, that first burst, wasn't different between forwards and defense?
Statistically, no significant difference. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. What does that tell us?
It suggests something crucial. While forwards clearly excel in repeated sprint ability, that initial explosive first step speed, that seems to be a non-negotiable trait across all high-level players in this group, regardless of position.
So everyone needs that initial burst.
It seems foundational, yeah. It's not just about who can keep sprinting fast, but who gets off the mark quickest initially, whether you're driving the net or closing a gap on defense.
That's a really cool counterintuitive finding. So how might these differences or lack thereof in peak speed influence things like player selection or training?
Well, it likely stems from a mix of things. One is player selection, right? Coaches look for certain physical traits.
Yeah.
Forwards, selected for burst speed, repeated sprints to drive offense. Defense, they still need that initial explosion for closing gaps, joining the rush, quick defensive plays.
So maybe the need for peak speed is universal at this level.
It appears so. And then there's training. Programs are likely tailored. Forwards might focus more on repeated high-intensity intervals. Defense might focus more on power, stability, maybe slightly different conditioning.
But that base layer of explosive speed is essential for everyone on the ice.
Seems to be the case based on this data.
Okay, this is where, the rubber meets the road. Beyond the stats, the reliability. What are the real practical applications? What's the so what for a coach, a trainer, working with players daily?
Right, the application.
Yeah.
The big one is that this test genuinely reflects game demands those repeated all-out sprints within a shift.
Because it was designed from game data.
Exactly. So coaches can use it to get a really accurate snapshot of a player's current fitness level for hockey, not just general fitness.
Okay, baseline assessment.
Yep, and then monitoring progress, track changes throughout the season. Are they getting faster, slower? Is the training working?
Identifying trends, potential issues like overtraining.
Precisely. And a huge one, return to play after injury.
Ah, yeah. How does it help there?
Crucially, you can compare post-injury test results to their baseline scores from when they were healthy.
So objective data to guide that return to play decision.
Exactly. Take some guesswork out, helps reduce re-injury risk. Plus, it gives feedback on whether rehab or specific training programs are actually working. If the scores improve, you know you're on the right track.
That's incredibly valuable. Now, you mentioned earlier they recorded 5-meter split times, not just the total 15-meter time.
Yes, they did.
That sounds like it offers even more detail. What's the power of having those splits?
The power is that you can create a detailed skating velocity profile for each player. You see how they achieve their 15-meter time.
Not just the final number, but the acceleration pattern.
Exactly. The researchers give a great example. Player A and Player B both accelerated similarly for the first 10 meters.
Okay.
But Player A couldn't hit the same peak speed as Player B in that final 5 meters.
Ah, so Player A faded at the top end?
Right. And that gives a coach incredibly specific info. Instead of just, Player A needs to be faster, you know where the issue is. Is it the initial push or maintaining top speed?
Which lets you tailor the training much more effectively.
Precisely. Focus on specific skating mechanics, maybe power development for acceleration, or drills targeting top-end speed maintenance. It removes a lot of guesswork from individual player development.
That kind of targeted training sounds amazing. But practically, how challenging is it for coaches to implement that? with a whole team to manage.
That's a fair point. It's where the art of coaching meets the science, right? The data tells you what, the coach figures out the how.
Yeah.
Maybe they use stations in practice,
Yeah.
small groups working on acceleration drills based on their profiles, or targeted off-ice work.
Okay, so it requires some creativity and implementation.
It does, but the beauty of this specific test is its practicality. It's
Yeah.
relatively easy to set up, minimal equipment, just timing lights, cones, ice.
Doesn't need a whole fancy lab.
Nope. And it uses a small amount of ice space. That's a huge plus.
Why is that so important?
Because other drills or team activities can happen simultaneously on the rest of the ice. Or you can easily move the setup if the ice gets bad in one spot. It's efficient, doesn't disrupt practice too much.
Makes it much more usable in a real-world team setting.
Definitely. Now, of course, like any good study, they pointed out limitations.
Right, always important.
It was a convenient sample, one team. The sample size, especially for comparing forwards and defense, was relatively small.
Okay.
And crucially, remember, this test is specifically for linear maximal sprints. It doesn't measure turning, agility, puck skills, all the other complex stuff in hockey.
So it's one piece of the puzzle, not the whole picture.
Exactly. A very important piece for assessing repeated sprint ability, but still just one piece.
That makes perfect sense. So let's wrap this up. To recap our deep dive, what's the core takeaway? The main conclusion about this 7 by 15 meter Oroist test.
The core conclusion is pretty clear. The 7 by 15 meter Oroist is a highly reliable, very practical way to measure both peak and repeated maximal sprint skating ability in female hockey players.
And it gives real insights.
Yeah, it doesn't just spit out numbers. It provides genuinely valuable insights tied directly to game-specific performance, helping coaches and trainers make better, more informed decisions.
And this kind of research, this precision, it's so important, isn't it? Bridging that gap between, lab science and what actually happens on the ice or field.
Absolutely. It ensures that how we train players, how we assess them, actually reflects the real unique demands of their sport, moving beyond guesswork to evidence.
Yeah, evidence-based development. This study really shows how designing a test from the sport's demands can give you incredibly meaningful, actionable data.
It's a great example of precision leading to practicality.
So for you, our listener, here's something to think about. We've seen how precisely this test was built to mimic ice hockey-specific demands. How might similar, really tailored, reliable tests revolutionize development, training, maybe even injury recovery in other sports, especially those that rely heavily on their own unique, repeated, explosive movements?
Good question.
What sport or maybe what specific type of movement comes to your mind where a super focused test like this could unlock totally new levels of insight and performance? Something to chew on.